And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Leena Zafary, who had a near-death experience due to her lungs collapsing, which we're going to learn about and more. Leena, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me.
Leena, let's start with how this all happened and go from there.
Okay, so the near death happened. I was in the hospital. It happened while I was in the ICU. I had pretty much been in the ICU for about 5 days or 9 days in the hospital total due to the N1H1 virus that was happening back in 2014. So what started off as a normal cold flu took me to the hospital, and then basically I spent 5 days in the ICU, and I lost function of both my lungs. I could not breathe, and the hospital they did everything to help me, but they got to a point where they said, sorry, there's nothing we can do because she's not responding. I had lost both lungs, and then the moment of me waking up on the other side happened. Obviously, I had no idea of what happened, but essentially, I got right up. I got up and I sat down on my bed, and I looked around and I knew where I was. I knew I was in the hospital room. I saw the white walls. I was completely aware I was sitting. I looked down at my body and I saw my body, and I was like, okay. I looked over to my right. And when I looked over to my right, I actually saw my actual physical human body laying on the bed. And I have complete awareness that that is my body, but there's really no like, oh no, like there's no conversation about it. It's just like, okay, I'm right there. But me, who you're talking to right now, the way I am right now with you, that part was sitting there at the edge of the bed, just like I'm sitting facing you. And I look down at my own legs because I'm sitting on the hospital bed, and I'm completely clear, like a glass figurine. I could see the shape of my legs, my thighs, my hands, my body. I can see all of me from neck down, just like I'm looking at myself now, except I'm completely clear. And so I have this awareness, I have the awareness of my body there, and I'm still looking around. And as I'm looking around, I hear a voice that feels like it's coming from to the right of me, to the top, but it's almost like I can hear it inside me, through me. So, and the voice is it's a motherly voice. It's a loving voice, but it's a stern voice. Kind of like reminds me like when a mother, like when I speak to my kids, sometimes I have to be tough with my kids. I'm like, come on, let's go, move it. We got to go. Let's go. We're late, right? And the voice was talking to me in the same manner, kind of like a motherly figure saying, Leena, you got to go back. Leena, you have to go back. Your kids are waiting for you. And you're the only one who can make that decision or make that choice, make that decision. And I'm listening to this, but it's almost like as if you're having a thought inside your own mind. So there's really no need to communicate, respond. I'm hearing it, but it's also within me. So I'm hearing that I have to go back, and I'm hearing that it's a decision only, it's a choice I have to make, and I have to make the choice. So in the process of this voice talking to me and giving me time, in between like the next sentence that it says, my awareness is taking to the left of me, and I happen to look back. So in the near-death experience, I'm shown my children. And there's so much backstory to this, Jeff, because the time that I spent in the hospital before my near-death experience and what led me there and who I was and what was happening in my life, I feel like is a big part of my NDE and me coming back. Because at the time I was a mother, I was happily married. um, there was really, I happened to get sick and had that experience, but I had two small children. My son at the time was about to have a birthday and turned 5 years old, and I was completely aware of that. And my daughter was still 18 months old. She was still a baby, and very close. I was a I was a very, what do they call them? I was one of those mothers that basically I stayed home to raise my babies, because at the time when I had kids, I actually thought that I couldn't have kids. I had kids later in life. So when I did have children, I mean, I got married late too. So for me, all the 20s that most people are married and have children, I was single. So, I was, I whatever. But so when I got married and had children at a later age, it was different. It was almost like a gift, my life was a gift to me. I was in love with my life, with my children. I felt a lot of that. So in my near-death experience, when I looked over to my left and I saw my children sitting there, it was almost like the room was already lit. It's so weird because I'm looking at a window in my background as well. It was almost like white room like this, but it was almost like when I saw my kids, and I was so happy. I was so happy to see them, that everything just illuminated, like everything got lighter, everything just became happier. And in it's hard to describe with words the intensity of the emotion, but also the familiarity of the emotion I was sensing and I was feeling, because I did feel extreme love, bonding love with my children, as I was at home caring for them and nursing them and stuff. So it was all that, but just amplified more. Um, while I was in the hospital, the only memory I had was me trying to get up and say, I'm fine. Please let me go home. I need to go home. I have to get home. My kids are waiting. So the 9 days I was in the hospital, before I had my NDE, the only thing I recall, the only memory I have is, coming to, waking up and realizing I was in the hospital and it'd been so many days, and me begging everybody, saying, look, I'm fine, I'm awake. Can I go home? My kids are waiting. So this whole pull with my children was really, really a strong pull for me, because while I was fighting for my life, essentially in the hospital, there's part of me that was like, I gotta go home because these kids are waiting for me. And there's a date that's important. My son's birthday is January 13th. And I went into the hospital sometime in the first few days of January. So 9 days in, I had no idea what the date was. I didn't know, what the calendar looked like, but I knew my son's birthday was coming up and I knew I had to get home to him. So in my NDE, when I saw my children, it was this joy that was, I cannot put into words or even express to you the intensity of love that I felt and happiness, because first I got to see them. I've been yearning to see them and wanting to be them, and there they were. So this love, this joy, this light that filled me and consumed me in a space that emanated from my children and from me to my children, did something else, and another extraordinary thing, which now all of a sudden my attention, my gaze kind of went up further. And you know what I saw? Your background, Jeff, that black sky that you could still see, still see the light and the hues of blue, you can almost like see through it. That's what I saw. I saw that in the background. So here's the white hospital walls, right? Hospital room. And now all of a sudden they kind of disappeared. And I'm looking exactly like what you're seeing in your background. So as I'm looking, I'm seeing a row of people sitting there. But I can't see them. They're just like a shadow of them, like a silhouette of them. But I could see everybody sitting and facing me. And as I'm looking closer to see who it is, I notice that I can't see them, but I realize, or I feel and I know that there are people here on earth that are still alive. And they were all sitting there praying for me. They were praying for my return. And because that's exactly what was happening. When I was in the ICU room on the day that I had my experience, the doctors had actually informed my then husband and my father that there was really nothing they can do for me because I wasn't responding to anything. And that they suggested that they should, say their goodbyes and make preparations. So that's where I was. So in my NDE, when I'm looking out and I'm seeing all these people, and I can hear and feel their prayers, but I can't hear it, but I can feel it and I can sense it. And this energy of love and gratitude consumes me. Like, I'm so filled with gratitude, like, oh, thank you. You're praying for me, and I knew it. But there's really no words in that, but the feeling was of that. But another incredible thing happened is my desire to look to see who they was for me. I put my gaze on each person individually to see who they were. And as I looked at each person, that person from the darkness would rise up and come closer to me. And as they came closer to me, they turned into the flame of a candle. So it was almost like their body was there, but I could see no body. All I saw was just the light, the top of a candle. So everybody, whoever they were, showed up to me in the same exact way, which was the flame of a candle. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting, And I I I always wondered, what exactly does that mean here in my life coming back? But essentially, that's what happened in my near-death experience. And then, of course, my attention came back to the voice that's speaking to me. And now, all of a sudden, I'm back here. And the voice is saying, Leena, you got to hurry up and make a decision. You got to hurry up and make a decision. You got to make a choice. You got to go back. And it's just talking to me. And then, Jeff, at that moment, I don't know what happened. It's almost like somebody unplugged the TV, somebody unplugged whatever was there, and everything just went off, blank, everything went. I have no memory after that point. I don't remember waking up. I don't remember coming back. I don't remember going back into my body or the process of going in my body. There was no sense of, the next memory I have was, so I figured it out backwards with information, but when I came back into my body, I came back and I came back, but consciously, I didn't come back for another day or so, for another 24 hours, I think. And the reason why I say that is because I woke up in the ICU and I have no memory of it. I have no memory of when I opened my eyes, who was there, what was said. I have no idea, but apparently a lot happened because there's a picture of me that my husband took of me sitting in the hospital bed, eating a burger with fries and a drink on the hospital bed. And this was after I woke up. So I came back into my body. I arose conscious in the human body, in this body, but I had no memory of it. My consciousness did not come back with me at the same time. I still woke up. I still interacted with those around me. Apparently I was hungry after 9 days of not eating, and I asked for food, and food was brought over to me. And there's a picture of me eating it, but I have no memory of it. I found out 2 years ago that happened because my now ex-husband shared the picture with me. So that's why I know I don't have a memory. The memory I have is when I came back and I was actually going home to see my kids. But I woke up healed. I didn't even know I died. I didn't even know I had a near-death experience. I didn't know my lungs had gone, and I didn't know my lungs were fixed. I didn't, nothing. Came back almost with in like amnesia, like I had no idea what happened to me.
Well,
And it took years to figure out.
when did the memories of the NDE return?
It started showing up as I went back into my life. I think it took some time, and slowly, like it never went away. It was there. It was almost like, I remembered bits and pieces of it. It was like I could still see it, but for me, in my conscious mind, was not really awake. So my conscious mind was not really thinking about it or looking at it. I came back into my body. I was still here. I woke up. I ate. I drank a soda, but I wasn't consciously here at all. So I don't know how long it took, but I do know that when I came back, um, I had this feeling of like this kind of like this silent vibration that was emanating off of me. It's almost like this feel, and I knew I was in the hospital. They told me I was in the hospital. Like everybody treated me very fragile because I just came back, but nobody really told me what happened. So, but I knew something happened to me, but I just didn't know what. But the memories came and all the other stuff.
So prior to your NDE, were you asleep or did you just go unconscious from the illness and from there you left your body?
Oh, I was in the hospital for probably, I think, a total of 9 days. 5 of those days, the first 3 days, I was in a regular hospital room. I was in and out. I was not really unconscious, but I was having such a hard time breathing. So I got sick from just N1H1 virus. I thought it was a cold, but the thing is, my lungs, I couldn't breathe. So when I was trying to breathe, it was hurting. So it was 10 o'clock the night I came home from Texas. I was living in California, and I had gone to Texas to visit my brother and his wife and family. So I had spent about 2.5 weeks in Texas. This was December of 2013. So I was on vacation. And during my vacation, I got a cold from my sister-in-law. And then I was like, oh, great, I have a cold. But by the time I got home, I couldn't breathe. And I went to the hospital because something told me to go to the hospital. I was like, the voice said, go get checked out. And I'm not one to go to the doctors or hospitals. I usually self-heal. So I went. And then the first 3 days, I was, and then I got better. And then on the that third night, something happened and I went into the ICU for the next 5 days. There, I don't have many memories. I was not very conscious, but I did wake up a few times and realized I was there and that I wanted to go, but that was the extent of it. So, yeah.
Do you think the lack of memories from when you came back is due to just the illness and being severely sick, or some of those memories are withheld on purpose from your NDE?
Well, all the memories are completely clear. That's unforgettable. That like it's like a complete, clear, crisp picture. But my conscious not coming back at the same time has been really, really weird, because I feel like so I see a portal, and it's like, for me, I never went through the tunnel or a portal, and I didn't have any other conversations. I didn't see anybody. It was a very, very short, in the hospital room. Here's what it is. Here you are. Here's why you have to come back, and then I was back in my body with not without my consciousness following me back into my body. Like, for some reason, that was still somewhere out there, because I fully did not. For the next 3 years, I really had no clue that I had a near-death experience. I had no idea that that is what happened. I thought I got sick, I went to the hospital, and I had a dream. There's no vocabulary. I was raised in a Muslim Islamic family and upbringing, and there's no spirituality, there's no outside of you. Everything is, very, there's parameters and box. It's inside there. This was outside of that. There was no comprehension of where I went, what I experienced, and what I came back. So I had no context for it, but there was an open portal because I had I had mm, I had a profound spiritually awakening experience, or spiritually transformative experience, which is what they're referred to now. I found out many years later, but I actually, when I say the portal was left open for me for 3 years, is because in my other experience 3 years later, I actually got to enter that portal back, and I actually continued what we consider an NDE 3 years later in a float tank. And in that experience, I actually had more profound experiences than even my NDE, because oh my God, it was almost like this profound NDE that continued three years later. And I actually got to go through the tunnel. I merged into the darkness and became one with the darkness. So I had many profound experiences in that experience. So I don't know, like my NDE, I think I came back too fast and I wasn't finished having the rest of my NDE. And I think I came back because I needed time here on Earth to process things, to have that continuum part of it, because that was another major experience that took another several years to comprehend and to integrate and to be where I am today, speaking about it.
Well, I want to go there, but I want to ask you a couple questions first. Who was the female voice talking to you?
That's a very interesting question that you're asking me, because I never thought about it before, right? At the time, I didn't think about it. It was almost like this maternal voice. But in the more recent times, the more I talk about my experiences, right? And the more questions asked, the more it evokes for me to, look into that and ask questions and then receive the answers or find out. But, now now that voice, I think, was me. It was almost like my higher self, because it kind of spoke like the way I speak sometimes here as a mother. um yeah, I'm not yeah, there's this authoritative mother kind of voice that I tend to use with my kids. Like I have 3 kids, and I love my kids more than I can even ever describe to you. I am here because of my children. So my love for my children is like um, ineffable to describe to you. But I still, as a mother, have to, be a mom to my kids. And sometimes I have to tell my youngest, hey, you got to move it, clean up your stuff, get out, let's go, let's go, let's go. And that's the same voice that was talking to me. So perhaps that could have been my higher self talking to me.
Do you think the prayers actually helped you?
Absolutely.
So your message would be, if you have a loved one that's in a situation like yours, go ahead and pray because they do work, or it
Absolutely.
does work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, it's very interesting because I've had some really when you have these kind of experiences, every single second, every piece of it means something, and every piece of it, opens up and blossoms into more information and more context. So coming back, I really had to think about prayers and what prayers meant, and what qualifies as a prayer, and how to pray, and so there is a lot of conversation there in prayer. But in a nutshell, to me, prayer is when you can think about somebody from your heart space and just wish them well and just feel like love, like that moment where your heart kind of melts when you think about somebody. That's prayer. And that's all prayer is to me. Like, just to think of somebody in your mind or something and use your heart to feel love and gratitude for them. It's like you bringing your mind and your heart together. That's prayer. So whatever way you pray, as long as your heart and your mind connect, you can use whatever words.
All right, let's fast forward to when you were in the water tank. What happened there?
Are you familiar with the float tank?
I think so. It's kind of like one of those isolation tanks. And it's completely dark inside. It's maybe some sort of salt water, so you're kind of floating.
Yes. So for people who don't know what it is in a nutshell, basically they're called float tanks, and they're sensory deprivation tank, meaning they deprive all your senses, shuts you off. So it's dark, it's small, you're in water that's the same temperature as your body, so you feel like you're floating. There's no earth connection. So when you're hanging and suspended in air, um, something happens. So I went to a float tank.
Why did you go?
Wow. Okay. So I it was in the summer of 2017, 3 years after my near-death experience. And by now I had moved from California to Houston, and now I'm living in Houston. And from Houston, I'm traveling to California to visit all my family and friends. And when I go there, two of my cousins were like, because I grew up with a huge family, a lot of cousins. And so we're very close and we do things and we just random activities. Two of them said, "Hey, Leena, let's go. We want to treat you. We want to take you to a float tank." And I have no idea what a float tank is. And then they're like, "It's sensory deprivation tank." And they tell me a little bit about it. Jeff, I have no idea. Something terrified me hearing those things, because I'm not one to put myself in those type of positions or situations. I'm not a scaredy cat, but I don't, putting myself in a place. I can't swim, by the way. So for me to put myself in a tank full of water with no light, no nothing, is pretty terrifying. But it was really just going out and experiencing something. They wanted to take me to experience a float tank, which is just, something people do. And so I was just curiosity, and something drew me, something pulled me. I think the experience that I had was already set into such motion by the universe that, to me, I was just like, I was just a there's not a lot of resistance in me. So I was a very willing participant, to be guided by the universe to go there and have that universe, but not go, let me go, to have that experience. So that's the reason why I did it. No other reason. I had no idea what I was doing. No clue.
All right, so you got inside, you're floating there. Then what happened?
Ah, wow. So I'm in the water, I'm laying down, and my consciousness is transported outside. I am laying there and I realize completely that I am in water, and I'm kind of fidgety and I'm like moving around, and I'm having a hard time settling in, right? And there's like 750 pounds of salt water in this thing of water I'm in, like there's the space I'm in. So there's a lot, the water is very salty, and somehow some got into my eyes and my nose. So I was very, very uncomfortable, and I got myself situated. And at one point, I finally relaxed long enough to lay in the water and just calm down. And that voice that I heard in my NDE, that voice came back again. That voice started to talk to me and guide me.
Let me stop you for 1 second. Do you keep your eyes open or do you close them?
That's so funny. I was just about to tell you that. My eyes were closed, obviously, right? But it's weird because when you're in a room so pitch black and you open your eyes and you close them and you realize there's absolutely no difference, it almost, the human body does not really know what to do with the eye. So I don't remember if I left my eyes open or closed, but yeah, I did open my eyes and I was fully aware that it was pitch black. Nothing, I could see nothing in that space. So I don't know if my eyes were open or closed at that point. I'm sure closed because, but I could see. There was an inner eye that opened up after. These eyes closed, another eye opened up because I could see in the dark now. And what I saw was, well, first, I heard that voice again. And the voice said, relax, take a deep breath. And it literally was like, relax, take a deep breath. And as the voice said that, my eyes popped open. But I don't know if it was these eyes or if it was my inner eye, but my eyes popped open. Now all of a sudden I could see. And it's still pitch black, but I could see. And I looked up, and I'm not sure if I opened which eyes I looked with, but I looked up and I noticed that from the back of my head, from the top of my head, was this incredibly beautiful white ribbon just kind of floating in and coming down, and I'm watching it just come up, and I'm watching it and come and like ribbon through and go right in through my nose. And I remember inhaling it, and I was told to do it 3 times. So I took in 3 deep breaths and I inhaled that light. I don't know what it was. I looked exactly like, you know how when you smoke a cigarette, the smoke that comes out from the tip of the cigarette has that beautiful ribbons. If you ever watched it, it was that. I saw that coming down, like it's just beautiful white ribbon. And at that point, that did something to where it relaxed me. Now I was dialed in, tuned in, I guess, with the voice. So now the voice starts to talk to me in a sense to where there's not a lot of conversation, but very the information that was given, it's almost like each word that's said is kind of like there's a book behind it. So there's information behind each word that's said. So each word that's said comes with all its context with it. So the voice, because I'm having a hard time relaxing my hands, right? The voice it goes right into telling me that my hands are at this point on my belly. The voice tells me that these are my chakra systems. Those are my chakras. She goes, those are your chakras. And then I'm being shown the different chakra spots, like I could see. So my body is laying there and I'm watching my body. So as I'm watching my body, the voice is telling me where to look, and I'm looking at my body, and she's telling me that these are your chakra systems. And once you understand your chakras and how they relate to your life, once you understand that, you can fix your life through your chakras. Now, as this voice is telling me this, I'm thinking, what? What are chakras? I'm literally taking mental notes. I have no idea what a chakra is. I've never heard the word chakras. So in my mind, I'm literally like a notepad. I'm taking notes. I'm saying, I got to look that up when I get back. That was just a fleeting thought, but it was an awareness that I had that I didn't know what that was. So I don't know how much information was downloaded into me about my chakras, but the information that I needed to know about my chakras was at that moment put into me and downloaded into me. Now, it took me time in the past 7 years to consciously come back and understand and integrate all that. And as I've healed it, I'm healing my life. it's, um, it's not, but in that moment, in that, as the chakras were being explained to me, now all of a sudden, I don't know how much time we have. Did you want me to continue?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. Um, I was now all of a sudden in a tunnel. So the tunnel was actually, um, I found myself in the tunnel, but I found myself sitting in like in a car first. So here I am as if I'm driving the car, right? Like I'm in a car and I'm going. But I realized that as I move forward, there's an awareness of me outside, on the outside of in the tunnel, but outside of the car. So if this was a tunnel and this was the car, my awareness is sitting right on top of that and looking at the car and me inside it. So I'm having this awareness and this awareness. And this awareness is noticing that the me that's inside the tunnel keeps moving. But as I'm moving, I start off being in the car, then it turns into like a big ship, but I'm driving it or in the front of it. And then after that, it turns into like a plane. And again, I'm in the front and I'm moving this plane forward. And then it has another transition to where it becomes like a bird and I'm transitioning. And so I'm having this awareness of being in, and I'm also having an awareness of being out, looking at myself inside, but the transformation of what's on my outside, I'm watching my transformation from the outside. And then I also realize that I have another awareness on top. And the awareness that I have out here is up in the sky. And this awareness is looking down at the side of a big mountain. I'm over a mountain and I'm looking down at the mountain, and on the side of the mountain, there's a tunnel. And inside the tunnel is where I'm at and where in what's being propelled out. And I realized that as I'm looking through, towards the end of the tunnel, there is this like lattice opening, and I could see the lights in front of me. And I could see light coming in through like this lattice, breaking up on the side of the mountain. So as I'm going through this and I'm having all these changes, I come to the end of the light, the tunnel where the light is, and I, at this point, propel out of it. And as I'm coming out of it, I'm actually me. Now it's just me. Only Leena's coming out. And as I come out, I have an awareness to look, and I'm out on the side of the mountain, but I'm not falling. I'm in space. And as I'm standing there, I happen to look, and again, I don't see a physical human body or Leena, but it's almost like my clear outline is there too. Like I can see through myself. There is no me, but I'm fully there. But I'm not falling. I'm just part of the space that I'm in.
All right. And then what happened?
So a few other things happened. Um, I did I did get I did get to a point to where I was out in space, like the space that's we're looking at as behind you, and I'm in that space, and in that space, it's almost like I'm looking and I'm seeing the earth in front of me. And in front of me, I look at the earth, and then it's kind of like as if I'm sitting there watching the earth, like you're listening to me. As I'm watching the earth in front of me, I realize that there's the words micro and macro written on top of it, like in very, very bold, thick letters, micro slash macro. And I'm thinking, oh boy, micro, macro. I remember reading those words back in school, which was many, 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 many years back. But I really never thought about the words. Like I never really thought about the meaning of micro and macro and how it relates to anything. Like it was just some words. Um, But what ended up happening was, um, now it's like I see macro, and right underneath it is the earth. And I'm looking at the earth, and all of a sudden now the earth transforms in front of it in its fullness, a big, beautiful tree. This gorgeous tree, thick trunk, right, fits right in the earth, and beautiful tree, the leaves, the entire thing. So I see this beautiful tree in front of me, and as I'm looking at the tree, all now I'm seeing the micro and the macro of the tree. Meaning I see the tree, but I'm also shown its micro, which means it came from a single seed. That entire tree came from a single one seed. That one seed, the micro, became the macro, which became the tree, which produced a lot more micro fruits. So I saw the micro and macro of that, but in the same way, I was shown humans. Like I got to see a human, and I got to see the micro and macro of a human, kind of like went down back, not even your children. I saw human back down to the atom, to being that, and back, and then creating more life, and becoming more. And I saw that for everything. I was kind of like just watching quietly, observing. There was no words, there was no conversation. It was just this beautiful slideshow presentation being played in front of me. And the earth was the screen that I was watching. And I just saw the micro and macro of everything in existence flash in front of me. And I just sat there and watched it.
After this experience or your NDE, did you have any new abilities that you could consider to be psychic?
Huh. It's funny you're saying that, because growing up the way I did, with the mindset and religious views, and even though I didn't ever agree with them, um, it never left that space open for me possibility. And when I came back, so all these experiences were profound. They were extremely, like, of the utmost frequency of love and divine oneness that I could even ever imagine. But coming back, I had to integrate that into the belief systems that block, or that box that is me, like this body, this human experience. I had to bring all that and fit it into this. And it was really, really difficult, because it was like wanting to seep out of me. So I do have abilities, but I don't want to call myself psychic. I I I have abilities that has taken me a long time to just not chuck it off as whatever. But I do feel like I see the micro and the macro of situations in people. I could see a problem, and it just, in my mind's eye, I can, all of a sudden, I will get a visual of the micro, which means where the problem started, or what the issue is, the root of it, the micro of it. And I could also see the macro of it, like what needs to flip switch to affect the macro. And that's taken quite a bit time to put together, but essentially that's how I see and feel my world. Is I'm somehow able to see that in things and in people.
Where are you now with your spiritual slash religious beliefs?
Almost in the same place as I was, but more with more confirmation, and more more like knowing. um you see, I was born in Afghanistan, but raised in the US. I was born into Muslim family, so family, everybody, my community, my world revolved around the Islamic faith and the belief. And we haven't even talked about this, but after I've finally discovered what happened to me, after I learned that these experiences had terms like near-death experience and spiritually transformative experience, and after I've integrated and processed all these things, what opened up to me was the fact that I came into this world with an NDE. I came in, I had an NDE at birth, and I came in somewhat awake and aware, but I didn't know what that meant or how to express it around people who had very strong religious beliefs. So I always had this mixed misunderstanding of where I was. So there was a lot of resistance growing up for me with faith and religion. A lot of it didn't make sense. So I was later in life, I kind of became a little rebellious. Like I would didn't really, I had questions and I just wanted answers, and conversations never went well when it came to religion. But when I had my NDE and then my STE, my views changed, my opinions changed, in the sense that everything that I thought and felt before was confirmed. Like all my resistance to religion and all the questions that I had about religion, questions about Islam, questions about Muhammad, all those got answered to me in my STE, you know. So when I came back, now I have strong understanding of what my beliefs are, but at the same time, I have more love and more tolerance and more understanding and respect for religion. But I realize that I still see, yeah, I'm not very religious. I love religion in the sense that the religions that we follow are essentially all paths to help us in this life move in a way to where there's harmony in our life, and that keeps us close to the light of love and God. In every religion, that is the main attraction, that is the main thing, like that pull to God, that pull to oneness. And whatever the journey is, some are rough, some are smooth, some are bumpy, whatever it is, the religion is religion. So they have all these rules to get you there, but I don't feel like I need to follow any of those. I respect the journey, I see it, but I don't consider myself on any religion or religious in any way. But I believe in God, I believe in love and all of that.
So we didn't talk about it, but I'm assuming you were born dead or something that happened to you as a baby, and you have been or have had some sort of awareness your whole life.
Yep. Yeah. I did. I came in, even my birth my mom was in labor for 4 days, 3 nights, or something like that, 3, 4 days. And back in the 70s in Afghanistan, I was a home birth. So not only was I a home birth, 3, 4 days of labor, I was breech. And when I was born, I was literally black and blue, like blue. There was no, 3 days of umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. I can't even imagine what I look like. I don't know. But obviously the stories that my parents and everybody that was there shared makes me think I had to have had an NDE. I have no memory of it. I have nothing. But all my life as a child, I was always connected to that side. It was almost like it was there, but it was blurry. Like everything in my life, I was trying to, like I was there both, but everything in my life, in my religion and family and everything that I was told I had to do and be went against what I felt and knew. So there was always that, but I never knew that it was because of that. I didn't even know that existed. I had an NDE in 2014, and I didn't find out that I had an NDE until like 20, I think it was like around 2019 when I discovered ions and when I discovered that I had a near-death experience. So that was several years, many, many years back. So it's been a very, very long journey.
Well, speaking of ions, you have started a local chapter in Las Vegas, right?
I have, yes.
How's that going?
Well, I'd love to say it's going great. Um, it was a slow start getting it going for me because, I'm still integrating. I am still processing. I'm still merging the Leena that was there with the Leena that was here and putting myself, when I say when I'm in alignment is when the old version of me, which is the physical body, comes together and aligns with the version of me that I saw in my NDE and STE that was clear. When the two of them come together and overlap, that for me, that is my alignment. And that is my thing. And that's what I'm working on in my life, to bring those two pieces of me together. And as I do, incredible things happen. The frustration that I felt in the process of bringing those two together, there was a lot of hard moments, even though I had love and great experience in my NDE and STE. But when I came back to the world, I was so full of unconditional love and light, and I was beaming and vibrating with this energy of like God. And I just wanted to go around, share with the world what I saw and who I saw and what was said and the miracle. Like all I wanted to do, like a five-year-old child, run around and share my joy with everybody. But it was difficult because it was overwhelming and I was not being received well, so and not understood well. And the comments that I was getting from the world around me was like, okay, weird, and that for me reflected like, oh, maybe so I withheld a lot. And for many, 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 many years that bottled up. So when I discovered ions, it was almost like somebody just opened the doors and released the cage, and I was able to fly back and and be free and breathe. I was no longer alone. I wasn't the only crazy, weird human that went over there and came back, and now I'm trying to talk about it and nobody knows. How do I do that? How do I be? Like all that went away when I found that there's other people who'd experienced these. So it's almost like I got to fall into myself in a meditative kind of way. And because of that, um, I wanted to be more involved with others, and I wanted to connect with others. And I yearned for those kind of conversations, and I wanted to hear other people's experiences. So when I moved to Las Vegas 4 years ago, there was no community. There was nobody. And then I still found myself like yearning for those kind of connections and those kind of people who've had those, who understood me, who can share their story so I can understand my story better. And from there, I went through the process, and yeah, I did. So I became a group leader for IONS of the Las Vegas local chapter, and now I'm doing the same thing that IONS does on a international level. I'm doing that on a both local and international level because I want to create a space here in Las Vegas for other people who've had experiences that has left them kind of lost in the world afterwards, coming back and trying to put it together. So we do sharing groups every other week. So if you've had an experience or if you're curious, you can come and hang out and meet others and connect and process or learn more or answer whatever it is that you're seeking, right? And I also aim to educate more people because I feel like I spent 40 years of my life being lost, not knowing why I'm so different, why I couldn't be understood, why it was so difficult. Life was beautiful in one way, but difficult in another. So because of those reasons, I started IONS, and I want other people who have experience to find a community and home. So here we are.
It would be amazing if you could start a second group, even though you're not there, of NDEers from Afghanistan.
Well, I think for me, that is my heart's dream desire. And I think that was one of the main reasons why I learned more about this and why I started Ions of Las Vegas, because the way I see it is this. NDEs happen to anybody and everybody, regardless of your age. It happened to me before I was even born. It happens regardless of your religion. I was a Muslim and I had no clue. It happens regardless of whether you understand it. I had no clue about it. And if it could happen to me, it's happening to others. And if it's happening to others, it's probably happening to other Afghans and who don't have the language or the resources or the knowledge to be able to Google or learn or read the books that I've read, to talk with the people that I've talked, to find the resources needed to integrate this. So I know there's other Afghans who are struggling or who's had experiences that the rest of the community calls them crazy, because it comes with a lot of sensitivities. It comes with a lot of things. And those are beautiful things, but when it's not being accepted by our loved ones, it becomes really, really difficult. So yeah, it is, I think, my dream to create space for Afghans who've had experiences to feel safe to come and speak about it, because it's not safe to speak about our experiences. I don't know if you know this.
Have you met any NDEers face to face in Vegas? And if so, is there something that when you're around them that you can sense that you know they've had an NDE?
Yeah, there is. Well, obviously somebody would have, so all these experiences, what has taught me is that we are a reflection of each other. You know, even like my NDE, the fact that I was clear, right? I was able to be kind of like clear, like a mirror for those praying for me. So the way I translate my NDE, right, is that my alignment with my higher self makes me clear, makes me non-judgmental, and makes me free of what makes me human, which means my thoughts and emotions in my physical body. So me and my clarity, me and my oneness, right? I become a mirror to people. And I think, and vice versa. So I do feel people's energies and I feel people's emotions. And people who've had experiences always remember that moment where they saw love and light and God. It's almost like the light came on, and they have this ability to tap into that love when we meet and when we talk. It's almost like, oh yeah, I had that too. And it's like it turns it on. So I feel the energy connection with people. And people who haven't, but are interested or who hear about it, it's the same thing. The love that you have acts like a light. So there is a difference. And people who have no clue, who don't, who kind of take it off as like, oh, that's crazy. That don't make sense. That was this or that. They have this more closed mind. So it's almost like I can feel their closeness about it. So I don't know how to in words describe it, but I could feel a sense of openness or closeness in people. And there is a difference in the embrace. I don't know if you've ever been to an IONS conference. Have you been?
I haven't.
Have you met any NDErs in person, or has it been virtual?
Only virtual.
Okay, well, I would highly recommend that you meet some of us, because something extraordinary happens when you hug somebody who's had an NDE. And I did not know that until I went to the IONS conference 2 years ago. I cannot explain it to you in words. I've been hugged by people. I've been hugged by family, been hugged with love by so many people in my life. But when I was hugged by other experiencers, in this really strange way, I almost felt like God came through their bodies and hugged me. There was this different hug. There's a different feel being embraced by someone who've had an NDE. And I was in a conference with so many NDEs, and we become like a family. We recognize each other, and there's this instant connection, instant resonance, and it's like the love you feel from them is, it's almost, it's indescribable, but there is a difference. You feel a different energy hugging you.
Well, if people want to reach out to you and either ask you questions or join your Vegas community, are you up for that? And if so, how do they contact you?
Absolutely. uh, so it's ionsoflasvegas.com, and I'd be happy to send you a link to anybody who wants to um, you know join the Ions of Las Vegas, and join our sharing circles. I do virtual, so you can zoom in from anywhere and be a part of it if you've had experiences, any language, and it doesn't matter. It's just a place to just be. And then also I have a website that I just put up just because there's so much love and so much that is wanting to come through me, and I know that this miracle gift of a second chance at life for me comes back with some, like, I have to share the love and the gift with the world, and I'm doing that. So you can always go on to LeenaZafary.com, which is also my website, and you can get in contact with me there or ask any questions. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer. If you want to connect with me.
Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
Well, outside of Ions of Las Vegas, growing that group in that space, I'm always working on different projects. I've um, I've gone, well, since coming back, I've become, I'm able to self-heal my own body with stuff. And I've gotten into healing modalities, and I do a lot of energy vibration work. So I'm putting stuff together right now. I do a lot of work with frequency and vibration and different types of healings. So yeah, I'm working on projects, and they just show up and become. So there's a lot happening and coming in the future. I have a book I'm writing, so
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
really, we are all one. We are all the same. We all come here to have an experience of life filled with love, joy, and that has always been our intention. And to remember that everybody is love and light, and that we can be in a state of prayer for each other here, and we are meant to help one another and just bring love into our life. When you tap into love, you not only heal yourself, but you do heal those around you. And we all have those abilities. We all have the capabilities. We truly are one. And we're made from the same light of the divine. We are all stardust on earth in human bodies.
Leena, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.